back to the stage, Richard ATTIAS.
Thank you. 7 years ago, my wife and I were in Los Angeles, and I have to say that we attended, she was a speaker, and we are attending an amazing conference, very impressive conference, organized by the great lady which I will have the privilege to introduce to you in a minute. 10,000 women were in an amazing room. She is a mother of 4. She's an Emmy and Peabody Award-winning journalist and producer, most recently serving as executive producer of the ESPN 30 for 30 Brave in the Attempt, which is really an amazing program. I had the privilege to watch this movie 2 days ago, and as I said before, it was about the amazing accomplishment of the late Ernest Kennedy Shriver, and frankly speaking, you cannot miss that piece to understand the power of Special Olympics and the power of what was accomplished. She's also the producer of the Oscar-winning Still Alice, Special Olympics International Board member, founder of Shriver Media, A Woman's Nation, the Shriver Report, Shriver Report Snapshot, and the Wipeout Alzheimer's Challenge. And of course, she is the former First Lady of California and longtime activist for social change and gender equality. So we are very proud to support her and to call on stage Maria Shriver. Maria. Maria, stay with me here. You know,
stay with me.
This morning, I was saying to the students, we have more than 200, 300 students, ambassadors, Doha goals. I was telling them, guys, forget your cell phones for the next few days. You have to meet new friends. Stop to be virtual. But I will make an exception just now. Because to support Maria's work, I would like you all to pledge to make sure all people are counted and respected. So let's see the Doha Goals community play their part. So please, all the students here, now is your chance to take a selfie. Really, it's important. But take it, upload it, and pledge with us. So use the hashtag. I think we will have it here. The hashtag on the screen, let's change the game. And Doha Goals, and let's come together to create the change. So I will also myself, if you allow me, I'm not doing that quite often, but I cannot miss that. So I will at least do that also with Maria, and we will do it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so please, just do it too, okay? And now I call back on stage Laura. Where is she? Okay, great, because it's your now privilege to have your conversation. Please.
Do I get to say something about you? I just want to thank Richard for inviting me here today, for supporting the work of the Shriver Report and helping us take a look at the nation and find out where we are as a nation and where we want to go. So I want to thank you, and thank you for bringing this forum here to Los Angeles, the most diverse city in the world. And I think it's such a great thing that you did that, and I'm so happy to be here. I look forward to my conversation, and I look forward to changing the game with everybody here in this arena and outside of this arena. So thank you.
Thank you. Laura.
Timeout?
I don't know. You know what? If it's timeout, we're going to talk. I hope you don't mind eavesdropping. Maria, how are you?
How are you?
Linda Cohn, nice to finally meet you. I'm going to move this glass so I don't hurt anybody.
I don't know about timeout, because timeout is an expression that you use with your children when they've been bad.
Yes.
So you put them in a timeout.
Right.
So.
But Maria, this is all good. And you know what? Because I'm just dying to ask you every single question known to mankind, and especially for everything you've done, because you're such an inspiration. Last night, while everybody was enjoying the fabulous opening ceremonies of the Special Olympics, you might have missed, but it's going to be repeated, Braving the Attempt on ESPN, your fabulous program, 30 for 30. And we're going to show a clip right now. And, of course, it's about your unbelievable mother, Eunice. Here we go.
Linda. She was in a family where boys got the attention, and she was trying to be one of them. So she was an incredible athlete, incredible tennis player, sailor. She was competitively racing well into her 70s. She'd take you down to the little pier in Hyannisport and show you that it says E. Kennedy, and she's like, that's not Edward Kennedy, that's Eunice Kennedy, #1, all through all the races. You have to compete, otherwise you're by yourself in the corner.
Tremendous. I'm telling you, you guys have to see it. Do we know? I know it's going to be repeated on the ESPN's Family and Network, so definitely.
Right. It's going to be repeated. I hope everybody will watch it because it's about this movement. It's about mommy. It's about being a visionary. It's about leadership. It's about what it means to be a woman. And it's about having a dream and what you have to do to make it a reality.
And you know what? With your mom looking down and seeing what went on last night, that atmosphere, the chills, the goosebumps, just all the hearts opening up for what we saw last night in those opening ceremonies, what do you think was going through her mind as she looked down?
Well, I felt she was very much in the Coliseum. I felt she was very much alive in all of those athletes and in all the families and in all the journeys that were taken to get to that moment. But she would be very focused. This morning she would have been up bright and early. She would have been going to the games, figuring out were they well run, was everybody able to compete, were the heats equitable. She would have been focused on that, and she'd be very focused on this Shriver Report snapshot that we did, and she'd be focused on the fact that half of this country doesn't know what an intellectual disability is and has had no experience with a person with intellectual disability. So she'd be really mad about that, and she'd be really focused on what can I do to change it, and she'd be working on that this morning.
So Maria, it's very interesting you bring this up. You did do this survey. It's fantastic. Yeah. Everyone should read this because it will open up your eyes to what still has to be done in this area, which you are in the forefront of. So how do we change it? Yeah, 1 in 5 people don't know what an intellectual disability means, for an example. What do we do?
Well, I think the great thing, I think so many problems for all of us feel so big. They feel like, what can we actually do?
Right.
And they feel like, most people, I think, feel like there isn't anything you can do as an individual. And the great thing, I think, about what we've learned here, and I think what my mother also taught us, was that there's something that each and every one of us can do starting at a very young age. So everybody in this room today could make a commitment never to use the R word, which is viewed as an offensive, hurtful word in the community of intellectual disabilities. You could do that. Every single person, yeah. And that was a movement, I should say. Ban the R word was started on college campuses, started by young people because they had a sibling with an intellectual disability. They knew how hurtful that word was, and they have started a movement. So every single person could do that, talk to their friends about it. Every single person who knows someone with an intellectual disabilities could reach out to someone who doesn't. Somebody who doesn't could say, like, I'm going to make an effort starting today to meet someone with an intellectual disability and talk to that person. And I'm going to make that part of my intention for this year. We're not asking people to change the laws. We're not asking people to do something really big. We're asking individuals to do something that individuals can do. Individuals could come down, if you live in Los Angeles, could come and watch a game. I was driven down here this morning by a young man, 23 years of age, who's a Marine, who took his vacation time to volunteer.
Wow.
For these games. And he was saying, when you're a Marine, your vacation time is gold. You don't get that. And he took his to be a part of this event. That changes the game for him, for his wife, for his family, for his community. And that's how the ripple effect goes.
Yeah, baby steps are okay.
And also the other thing is that most people with intellectual disabilities want to work. If you have a business, if you have a forum like this, if you have any job available, please give it or consider somebody who has an intellectual disability. Bring them into your community.
It's a very, very good point. Because you're right, you brought out a fabulous point regarding that. People seem to get overwhelmed and they bring it on themselves, and there's no reason to be.
Well, I think people get and it's easy to get overwhelmed with all the problems. You have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, and they seem so big, they seem so time-consuming. So what we tried to do is get a hashtag that says, let's change the game, let's do it together.
Right.
And there are things that each of us can do. People with businesses can do something else. People who, everybody can commit to not using the R word.
Right.
If you're a young person, bring best buddies into your high school or your middle school, which fosters relationships with people with intellectual disabilities. That's something that everybody can do. If you're a parent, talk to your children about what an intellectual disability is. Talk to them about how they so rarely get included in social events and have, the figure, I think it was like 14% of people, or 4% of people said they had a friend who had an intellectual disability. That points to isolation. That points to not being included in kind of the very basic things that we all want to be included in.
Yeah, and you brought up how sports kind of like is very active in this, which is great. Not only obviously with the Special Olympics, but Joe Hayden, for instance, the Cleveland Browns, we did a story on ESPN the other day.
Right.
He, using social media, his younger brother, who he saved his life, we saved him from drowning in a pool, a neighborhood pool, and he has an intellectual disability. He is pushing it in the NFL of eliminating the R word.
Exactly, or Jamal Charles standing up last night and saying, I was first noticed by being a Special Olympics athlete, and I've gone on to have this incredible career. That changes the game. ESPN, total game changer. Doha goes, coming here to Los Angeles, having this conversation, you coming to it, you listening, game changer. You just had a panel of game changers.
Right.
All of these things, I think, people have been saying to me, oh my gosh, last night was so big, it's so big, it's so big, but it's also so small. It's one person at a time. Everybody in that stadium last night has a story and had a story. And by hearing that story, that changes the game for the person telling it.
It's not easy what you do. You're such a busy woman, and really, Maria, you're such an inspirational woman. You're one of my inspirations, everything you've accomplished in your life. How do you keep going, and is there some stories that you share? Is it because all these amazing stories of people that you run into that keep you going? What is the secret, Maria?
Well, that's actually really interesting that you say that, because I have always been a really curious person, which is why journalism for me never felt like work.
Right.
It felt, people talk about your passion. I love talking to people, and I'm so inspired by people's stories, what they overcome, how they start over, how they get up, how they deal with what life throws at them, and I get so excited to tell their story. I get so energized by meeting people and hearing what they've gone through. And whenever I've been kind of down in my own life, I've kind of turned to reading stories of people who have been through something far worse than myself, or who have been through something like myself, and I pay attention to their story, and I gain inspiration from it. And I think it's always important to know that nobody in life has a free ride.
Right.
Every single person has something that they're dealing with, something that they're trying to overcome, something they're trying to make peace with. And one of my favorite quotes is, be kind, because everybody you meet is engaged in a tough battle. And I think that's so true. Every single person in this room is dealing with something that most of us know nothing about.
Right.
And yet you're here. You're listening. You're walking through life, you're trying. And I think that that really is something that we all need to recognize, that in my blog this morning, I talked about bravery. What does bravery look like? I think we always associate it with like skiing down a Black Run mountain, or racing a F1 Formula car, or running for office. But bravery is, getting on a plane when you've never been on a plane and coming from Malawi. Bravery is walking into that stadium. Bravery is competing. Bravery is having a child with an intellectual disability and say, I'm going to raise this child just like my other child. and I'm going to have the same hopes and dreams, and I'm going to make sure that happens. That's bravery. Bravery is somebody leaving a tough, domestic violence situation and starting over with no money and no contacts and no tribe and, doing it. Bravery is not having any money and putting yourself through college. Bravery is joining the armed services. Bravery comes in so many shapes and sizes, and it's recognizing it in yourself and in others.
Well said. Wow. Maria, you've traveled the world. You've met countless
And I just want to say, Linda,
yeah.
I think it's also really important not to compare yourself.
Yeah.
I think you could come and look at Mummy, and see what she accomplished and think like, what am I going to do? Or you could come and see some of these Olympic athletes and see everything they've accomplished and go, well, what could I possibly do? And so I really think that this movement celebrates individual acts of courage and bravery. And I think that's really important to remember as we go through this week.
Right. No, that's a very good point. You want to take the ego out of it.
That's really hard.
Tell me about it. I have a mental note of everything you're saying right now. But you brought up a really excellent observation that you made. Don't think none of us have we have stuff going on, and I do the same thing. When I think, the world revolves around my own belly button, so to speak, I have to look, and I get down or my thing.
Right.
I look at these stories.
Yeah.
And they inspire me, and they make me feel good. And maybe that's selfish on my part, because their stories and their battles are making me feel better about powering on and helping the cause.
Well, I think that's, I think one of the things that the Shriver Report snapshot, I've always looked for them to inform you and inspire you and ignite you. Because I think, it's one thing to be inspired, but if you're inspired with information and that ignites you to kind of get up and do something, that's where the sweet spot is. And I think everybody here, everybody in this room made a decision to get up and be here. Everybody in this room made a decision to be a change maker, be part of the solution. Everybody in this room is looking to do better and be a part of a game-changing initiative. So that, to me, tells me you've already, hit the sweet spot. And where that takes you is up to every individual person, right? And everybody will find a different way. Some people will find it through forums. Some people will find it in sponsorship with their business. Some people will find it as a volunteer or a coach. And I think all of them are valuable. And I think one of the great things I think about this movement also for me was to see all of those countries lining up, countries that we read about that don't get along are all high-fiving each other.
Yeah.
Right? We're looking at, an example of how we want the world to be. And it's in this room, it was in that Coliseum, it's in everything that we're seeing this week. And I think the challenge for all of us is to figure out, what is this tapping into? And how can we make it more than just this week? How can we make it more than just last night?
And you've outlined ways that we can, as individuals, keep this going. And when this ends, when this amazing event ends, how do we keep that fire and that, you say, ignite? And so before we let you go, what's the most significant? What do you want to leave our group with?
Well, that every single person in here is what I call an architect of change. And what is an architect of change? They're men and women of all ages who go for it and who just stand up and say, I believe that the world can be a better place, and that my act of bravery, my small choice of language, my small choice of inclusion will push us in that direction. So I would hope that not just from this conversation, but from this gathering, that people would see that there's tremendous power in each individual. When I was First Lady, of California, Linda, people would come up to me and say, oh, could you do this and could you do that? And I'd say, well, why don't you do it?
Nice.
And they would go, well, I'm just and I would say, don't ever use the word just a mother or just a teacher. Right. And I said, always see yourself. That's what my mother would always say to me. See yourself as the change maker you think someone else is. Adopt that into your own dialogue with yourself. And sometimes we have to we have to do that a lot, you know. We have to affirm to ourselves that we're capable, that we're worthy, that it's okay for us to think, you know, our dream can be a reality, and to talk ourselves, you know, over the hurdles, over the humps, and but, you know, believe in yourself. And I don't think people here need to hear that because they're already here.
Right.
And believe that you're worthy and capable of that, and that whoever you're working with is lucky to have you. That's something that my dad, he wrote me, and I kept it in my wallet for a really long time, and he said, just remember, any room you walk into is lucky to have you in that room. Any man who you have company with is lucky to have you.
Love
Any
that.
person who's your friend is lucky to have you. And you know, I haven't always felt that in my life, but it's there in my head, and I feel really blessed at this age in my life to have had the parents that I have, to have had the life that I have, to have the family that I have, and the opportunities that I have. And I just feel at this moment in my life super blessed and super grateful to be here, to be present here. That hasn't always been easy for me to be present in the moment. And I feel really blessed to be present here, to be friends with Richard and Cecilia, and to be invited here.
Yeah, well, you've made it happen. It just doesn't happen. You've made it happen.
Thank you.
Maria Shriver.
Thank you.
Stay right there, Maria,
Stay here.
because I want to call up Suki Sandhu, because you're going to get an award right now.
I'm going to get an award?
I don't know if this is a surprise, but listen.
I'm getting an award?
Yes.
For what?
This is important. Go, Suki. The platform is yours.
I think we would all agree Maria Shriver has carried on the legacy of her mother, Eunice Kennedy Shriver. For many years, she has demonstrated an outstanding commitment to raising social awareness, affecting individuals with intellectual disabilities, and for inspiring women facing real challenges and needing a voice. In short, Maria Shriver defines the meaning of social good. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Doha Goals, we would like to present this special gift to Maria Shriver.
Oh, wow.
And I kindly request Richard ATTIAS, our executive producer, to please come forward and present this.
Thank you for this beautiful crystal. I hope it brings me good energy. I'm a big believer in crystals. Woohoo. And in energy. So may you have a great, positive, energy-filled forum. Thank you again for inviting me here, and God bless. Thank you.